Hello, everyone, and a very warm welcome to you all. My name is Zibad, and I am SAMDA co-president alongside Mubin. We are both medical students at Barts and the London School of Medicine and Dentistry, and we will be your hosts for this evening. So I'd like to begin by giving you all a very warm welcome to everyone that has joined us this evening. Now, our event today is SAMDA's UCAT session, where we will be supporting you with tackling the UCAT exam for your medical or dental application. Remember that this event is open to everyone, so do please share the YouTube live stream link to anyone who you think will benefit. You can scan the QR code using your phone or copy and paste the link. So, moving on to a bit about SAMDA. What is SAMDA and what do we do? Well, we are a student-run society based at Barts and the London Queen Mary School of Medicine and Dentistry. And we aim to support you with your university applications for both medicine and dentistry. SAMDA is comprised of a team of existing medical and dental students that will create events to help you overcome the key hurdles of the application process, including personal statement advice, interview practice, entrance exam preparation, and much, much more. And what do we have planned for you today? Well, today's event is all about the UK Clinical Aptitude Test and how best to tackle this all-important step within the medical and dental application process. What can you expect after today's talk? Well, after today's session, you will learn more about the UK CAP, how to best prepare for it, and also, we will be going through example questions with worked solutions to help you whilst you are preparing for this all-important exam. Lastly, there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions during the event, which we will answer at the end during our Q&A session. So if you follow us on our social media, as well as the Medic Life, on their Instagram page, they have an option for you to ask as many questions as you want, either now or during the event, which will be answered towards the end. So, moving on, what to look forward to in the near future? Well, as well as today's UCAT session, we have loads more events lined up for you. Firstly, we have our school visits. So if you are one of the 25 schools we have reached out to this year, then a group of existing medical or dental students will be visiting your school to help you with your UCAS applications for medicine and dentistry. We also have our highly popular mock interviews that are held in the autumn. That involves a crash course, a mock MMI, mock panel interview, and mock clinician-led interview to help you with the real thing. We also have our buddy scheme, and this will involve us pairing you up with existing medical and dental students to provide you with that continuous support all throughout year 12 and year 13. Our weekly tips are already well underway, and we've covered numerous topics, so do follow us on our social media to have a look at some of those. And lastly, we have our anatomy lab tours, which can hopefully give you that boost in your application, which we intend to host later in the year and early next year. Okay, and hopefully some of you guys would have also checked out our guide to applying for medicine and dentistry lockdown edition, but if you haven't, then we will be sharing this again at the end of today's event, and this will be a brilliant opportunity for you to read more about the application process with specific hints and tips to how to deal with things now that we are in lockdown and with this pandemic going on currently. So moving on to reporting concerns and safeguarding. So this is just a quick slide on what to do if you guys have any concerns and want to report any issues. It also shows some of the safeguarding measures we have put in place, but hopefully none of you guys will have to refer back to this. So since we have under 18s in our audience, we have to limit the interaction by turning YouTube comments off. However, we would like to make this event as interactive as possible. So we will be using a platform called Mentimeter for you guys to answer questions that we will be having throughout the talk and that you can interact on us with. And we'll go through about that on the next slide and how to cover that. Now, when answering questions, please make sure that you don't put any personal information or use any inappropriate language. And if anyone has any concerns in terms of reporting anything, then please do email us with a school teacher copied into that email so we can escalate as necessary. Also, we cannot respond to queries on social media. But if you do have any questions regarding this event or any previous events or any other events we hold in the future, then please do email us with the teacher copied in, and we will be more than happy to answer any questions or queries you guys may have. So moving on to asking questions. Like I said, we will be using a platform called Mentimeter. The access code for today will be 816987. So do please use this access code to answer the questions that will be asked throughout the event. And also do follow us on social media as well as the Medic Life on Instagram to ask any questions over there. And then we will be answering your questions right at the end during our designated Q&A session. And lastly, if you have any questions that you might realize that you want to ask after the event, then you are more than welcome to email us on our email that we have provided below. Okay, so moving on to the Medic Life. Now, Dr. Bakhtar Ahmed has very kindly delivered a UCAT presentation for us today. And a bit about him, he's a Barts graduate and also founder of the Medic Life. With the Medic Life, they have loads of talks on preparing for the UCAT. They also have an online work experience workshop. So there's much to look forward to on their side. So please do check out their website at www.themediclife.com and also follow them on social media, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube to find out more. At the end of the talk, there will be a feedback form, which if you guys could fill out, then you can also take part in a prize draw. So, moving on to our talk of today, UCAT. What is it and how do I prepare for it? Delivered by Dr. Bakhtar Ahmed.
Hey guys, my name is Dr. Bakhtar Ahmed. You guys can call me Back for short. It's a bit of a mouthful otherwise. So my name, so as Zabid really kindly said, I'm a Barts graduate. I've known these guys for a while now. We've been talking about what kind of things we can do to kind of give you guys a bit of a boost, a bit of a help in the UCAT. Now, testing started today, which is super exciting for me, but I'm sure it's also very nerve-wracking for you guys, which is why this is, this event could not have come at a much better time. So what we're going to do today is basically go through what the UCAT is all about. Now, I'm sure a lot of you know a lot about the UCAT already. I'm going to break it down a bit more for you guys, but also give you guys a few extra tips and techniques over the next hour that are going to help you guys with scoring higher on the exam. Now, yes, that's important, but we're also going to talk about how to organize preparation. Now, that's something a lot of students don't do. And a lot of students don't do very well, especially. Now, a lot of people say to me, oh, but you can't revise for the UCAT. And yes, I totally agree with you. You can't revise the UCAT for the UCAT because unlike the exams that you're used to doing, there is no set content to learn. Like, for example, if you do biology A-level, right, you're applying for medicine or dentistry, and you do biology A-level, you've got a textbook, you learn the whole thing inside out, and you go to the exam and you regurgitate that knowledge, you're going to get a great score. Whereas in the UCAT, you can't really do that because all the information comes from the questions, and therefore there is no set content to learn. But what you can do is you can prepare. And that is why I'm here today. I'm going to teach you guys how to prepare, give you guys a few sneaky tricks, we'll give you all the strategies and tips and techniques that I can cover as many as I can in an hour. There's tons, but we're going to try and focus a few in an hour, and then see how that works for you guys. And obviously near the end of the day, or near the end of the session, it'll be an hour session, we will talk about how to organize your prep, and then we'll do a Q&A. Right. First thing, very kindly, Zabed has just talked about the Instagram account, and that is what we're going to be using mainly to ask questions. Now, again, working with safeguarding, we thought this was the best way to collate all the questions. Now, there's almost, I haven't actually checked the count yet, but last I checked was about 400 students watching. So there's quite a few of you. If you have an Instagram account, go to the.medic.life right there. Okay, that's what it looks like, just to give you guys an idea in case you come across some other accounts. But so if you go on the story, it will look like this, right? And if you click on the little question bit, you can type in your questions, and those are going to get saved on my phone, which I will look at shortly, especially when we go to the Q&A session, and I will answer your questions in the Q&A at the end of the session. So so I'm going to leave that up on the screen for a bit, just for you guys to just find it. So so that's the Medic Life account on Instagram. And then the story looks like what I just showed you, just popping your questions. You may have to click forward a few stories just to skip the ones that are not the question story. Okay, as Zabed was also saying, we are using Mentimeter, so www.menti.com, and then the code. And I think Mubin is just going to put the code on the screen as well for you guys shortly, or there it is. So just follow that code, put that in, and then you will go to the Q&A, which is like a multiple choice kind of thing. And that is how we're going to interact with the questions I'm going to show you guys. So the way it's going to work is we'll talk very briefly through what the UCAT is, give you guys a bit of information just so everyone is on the same page. Then we will do some questions. And I want this to be an interactive session. That's how it always works best. And the courses we run are always interactive, and that's how students learn best, and that's how you guys are going to learn best. So answer the questions as we do them. Now, I would recommend, in terms of what you're using, try and watch this thing on a computer. Okay, if you're watching on your phone, now is the perfect time to go find a bigger screen. Okay, either watch on an iPad or a computer, just so you get an understanding of what kind of questions you're going to see, and on a bigger scale, so you can actually read the stuff. Okay, and then have your phone next to you and have Mentimeter on your phone so you can answer. Okay, and then have a piece of paper and pen as well ready, because this is going to be an interactive session. This is going to be a session going through the UCAT. You guys are going to learn tons in the next hour, and I'm very excited for you guys. So honestly, I do want to say a huge thank you to SAMDA for organizing this event, and we've got a lot of you guys here today, and hopefully we can make the most out of this, right? So before we carry on with the UCAT, I just want to talk to you guys about the prize draw. I always love to, make things a little bit more exciting, and who doesn't love something for free, right? So we are doing a prize draw within the next hour or so. Okay, it's your chance to win a free personal statement review. I will personally read your personal statement and give you guys feedback. One of you guys will be the lucky winner. So what you got to do is complete the feedback that I will tell you guys about at the end of the session. So don't do that just yet, but you can do the other steps now. Follow the Medic Life Instagram account. You should already be there. So remember, the.medic.life. Just take a picture at any point throughout the next hour, put it on your story, and obviously don't forget to tag the Medic Life so I can see that you've actually done it. And then within the next few hours, I will release who the winner is, or announce who the winner is, right? So one of you will get a personal statement review, because the next few months are going to be stressful for you guys. You've got the UCAT, then you've got the BMAT, you've got the personal statements, UCAS deadlines, interviews, right? Over the next 6 months or so, it is going to be one of the busiest times in your entire medical or dental careers. I know how you feel. I've been through it, right? But we're here to support you guys as much as we can. I'm here from a medical life perspective. SAMDA's here. They do amazing bits of work all over the country. It's been a pleasure being here as part of SAMDA. So it's great, being hosted by SAMDA. So let's talk about the UCAT. What is the UCAT? It stands for University Clinical Aptitude Test. Now, a lot of you may know it as UKCAT. It used to be called the UK Clinical Aptitude Test, but recently Australia and New Zealand have started doing this exam as well as of last year. So now for them, it's called UCAT ANZ, and for us, it's just UCAT UK or just UCAT. And it's the entry requirement for 30 universities. Now, the thing that makes it difficult, the thing that makes UCAT different for all of you is that it's a computer-based exam. Now, some of you may have done computer-based exams before. A lot of you wouldn't have, especially if you are sixth form students or your gap year students. I don't expect you to have done any computer-based exams at all. But if you're a university student, or if you've even done your driving theory test, then you have. But that's something that's slightly different, and it adds an extra challenge. And for the first time this year in the history of the UCAT, you can sit it at a Pearson VUE test center or at home. And we're going to touch on that later on. A lot of people ask me, where should I sit it? Where should I do the UCAT? Should I do it at home? Should I do it in test center? We will come back to that later on. Okay, let's just talk about some dates, right? So this has already happened, 1st July. You guys, hopefully all of you should have registered. If you haven't registered for the UCAT, make sure, I'm going to set you my own personal deadline, midnight tonight, okay? Make sure you have signed up for the UCAT by midnight tonight, please, because slots are already going. More than 50% of the students who are going to sit the exam have already booked their slot. So if you haven't, get on it quick, right? So that's already happened. Testing has begun today, right? Like I was saying. So this is a great time for us to talk about the UCAT and what you guys can do. And I know a few of you are doing the exam in the next few coming weeks, but majority from the feedback I've gathered so far, majority of people are doing it near the end of August, beginning of September kind of things. But we'll come back to that later on, okay? Now, registration and online booking closes 17th of September. After that, you're no longer going to be able to book to sit the UCAT this year. So again, like I say, I'm going to set you a personal deadline, midnight tonight. Make sure, please, make sure you've booked it by tonight. And then final booking deadline is the 30th of September. This is when you can change your UCAT date. So even though you may have signed up and got a slot, you can still change it until that day, right? So you can move it around. So you don't have to pick an exact time well, you can pick it now. That's great. But if something comes up and you want to change it, then you can still do that until the 30th of September. Last testing day is the 1st of October. If you're the kind of person who leaves everything last minute, just be careful with the UCAT. Anything could happen, right? So I always say, do it at least before the 1st of October, because something could happen that day. Maybe trains just not running or whatever, right? Something may happen, in which case you wouldn't have another chance to sit it. And then UCAS deadline 15th of October, which always stays the same every year. And that's when everything gets sent off. And then the wait begins for interviews. Exciting. Right, so which universities require the UCAT? You can take a quick picture of the screen if you like, but I wouldn't even bother, because what you should actually do is have a good think of the universities you want to apply to, go on their websites, and then go on their application page, and they will tell you exactly the requirements they need. Now, everyone also asks me, which uni should I apply to? I personally think there's two most important things that you should think about. One, where do you want to live for the next 5 to 6 years of your life, right? That is going to be the most important thing. Yes, there's ranking tables, there's league tables. No one cares about that, right? Like you may do at that point, and trust me, I've been there again. Like when I was at your stage, I was like, oh, this university is great. It's scored in the top 5. When you become a doctor, no one cares, right? It's all about, were you happy where you went, okay? And I think back of Barts, I absolutely loved my time at Barts. And that's why I'm so happy to be doing this with SAMDA, because these guys are already there. I stay in touch with a lot of Barts students, stay in touch with people who are just starting at Barts. Like, I love it. It's almost like a family, right? So that's why I would say, make sure you think about where you want to live for the next few years of your life. Second most important thing is the course structure. Okay, think about what kind of a course you want to do. Do you want to do a traditional course where they just do lectures for the first 2 years and then you start doing placements? Do you want to do an integrated course where you do lectures, PBL, anatomy, and then you go into your clinical years? Or do you want to do a PBL course where you just do problem-based learning? Think about that. I'll leave that with you guys. Okay, let's talk about the UCAT format. So this is just a general format. You don't have to write this down. This is available on the official UCAT website. But basically, it's a 2-hour exam, and think of it as 5 mini exams put into one. And the only break you get in between is that 1 minute for direction, right? And even that is not really a break. It's just a screen comes up. It will be like the next section of decision making, whatever you need to do. Okay. And these timings, they include that 1 minute. Now, as we go through each section, I'll break it down more, but this is just an overview. Verbal reasoning, you actually get 21 minutes for the 44 questions. That includes the 1 minute for your directions. And that 1 minute is the only break you're going to get. So use it wisely. Take a few deep breaths, just relax, spin on your chair if that's what you like to do. But yeah, just forget about what section you've just done and move on to the next. Don't hold on to any mistakes you may have made. Right. Okay, and like I said, as we go through the different sections, I'll break this down more and tell you guys what kind of timing structure you should be using. Let's talk a bit about scoring first. Okay, so the first 4 sections are scored from 300 to 900. Okay, the exam is standardized. Now, one thing I want you guys to be aware of, you don't have to get every question correct to get 900. Okay, look at that. Ignore my doctor's handwriting. It's terrible, isn't it? So you don't have to get every question correct to get 900. You can lose a mark, 2, maybe even sometimes 3 marks, and you can still get the maximum score. That's the first thing I want you guys to just keep in mind. Okay, so for the first 4 sections are scored from 300 to 900, 900 obviously being amazing. And the final section, SJT, or the situational judgment section, is banded from 1 to 4. Bands 1 and 2 being good, 3 and 4 being not so good. Now, some students are like, well, it's not scored that well. It's not scored as a number, so I'm not going to worry about it. Well, if you got 850, which is an amazing score, but then you got band 4, most universities would reject you. So make sure you do a lot of work for the situational judgment section as well. Okay, let's have a look at some averages from last year. So these are the averages: 565 for verbal reasoning, 618 for decision making, 662 for quantitative reasoning, and abstract reasoning for 638. Now, verbal reasoning always tends to be the lowest scoring section. Like, I've been doing this for years. I sat my UCAT 8 years ago. It was low back then. It's still low. And the per section average is basically an average of those 4 sections, and that is 621. That was 621 last year. The year before that wasn't far off. And for the last few years, it's remained around 620 and 630. There was one year, I think about 5 years ago, when it went up to 650. But since over the last few years, it remains around 620, 630. And I would assume it does the same this year. At this stage, everyone's like, oh, what did you get? What did you get? Right. So I'll tell you guys. I got 720, which in the year I did it was in the top decile. And, I was quite happy with that. And I'm not even joking. I didn't know half the techniques then that I do know now. So that's what I'm going to share with you guys. Okay. Over the next hour, I'll try and share a few of those. But you know what makes the UCAT really difficult? It's the fact that you guys, right? You guys, whether you're at school, at university, whatever, medical and dental applicants, you guys tend to be quite academic, right? You've been used to getting 80%, 90s, hundreds, right? And all of a sudden you come to an exam where even getting 50% is a struggle. And this is kind of to show you what the UCAT is all about. Now, the UCAT, if you think about the way the exam is structured, is one of the cleverest exams out there. Now, I've had the pleasure of thinking about it over the last few years, and I really understand the UCAT now, what purpose is, like it kind of why it's there, right? When I was at your stage, I was like, why do we have to do shapes? Why am I doing more verbal reasoning? What's the point of doing so much maths in an exam where I'm going to be studying medicine? But this exam, and I spoke about this in one of my Instagram posts the other day, but this exam doesn't test your knowledge. UCAT, universities, they don't need an extra 24 minutes to assess your math skills when you already have GCSE maths. Everyone has to do GCSE maths in this country. It's compulsory, right? So they don't need that. And universities have requirements for what grades they want you to have. So they already know how good you are at maths over the last 15, 16 years. So why use another 24 minutes? This test looks at what kind of a person you are, how you can stay calm under pressure, how you can prioritize things, and how you deal with stress. Okay, the three most important things when it comes to being a doctor or a dentist, right? So think about that whenever you try and do UCAT, and what we're going to cover today is going to be aiming at that. Okay, so we're going to do some sample UCAT sample questions, and this is where the Mentimeter, make sure you've got it up on your phone already, and as we do the questions, you can then hit A, B, C, or D, or whatever option, and then I'll reset it, and then we'll do it again for the next question. And that way I can see how you guys are doing, and I can also see what kind of questions need a bit more work, and which kind of questions we can kind of just go through. And something I learned from a professor at Barts, I love to throw in some pictures from my medical experiences over the last many years. So I was very fortunate to win the Christina Swain Trauma Fellowship when I was at Barts, which supposedly is one of the best trauma scholarships out there in Europe. And I was given the opportunity to go to Phoenix, Arizona for a month and a half, and then also to Johannesburg in South Africa for again another month and a half in my final year of medicine. And I learned tons about trauma medicine, which is where my interest lies. And this was one of the days when I got the amazing opportunity to fly around in a helicopter and go and pick up patients and treat them. And it was amazing. But I just do that just to kind of like inspire you guys and motivate you guys, what is out there. Because the UCAT, it's not the most fun exam to study for. But look beyond that. Yeah, think about how would you feel if you absolutely smashed the UCAT and your universities give you the offers for interviews, you smash that as well, you get in. Like, honestly, I can't even explain how amazing that feels. So hold on to that positivity, because the next few months, like I say, it's a bit of a tough road, but hold on to that. There's multiple groups out there available to give you guys advice. SAMDA does it. I'm here as well to get you guys through that. So yeah, let's get going through some sample questions. But before we do, I'm just going to break down verbal reasoning for you guys. So verbal reasoning is made up of 44 questions. Okay, you've got 11 passages. Now, a passage is going to be a short body of text, almost like a mini essay, and you will get 4 questions based on that. You will have 21 minutes for the section to answer all the questions. Now, what I would recommend is spend no more than 30 seconds per question. If you spend 30 seconds per question, you will just about finish. Probably won't, because if you do 30 times 44 is actually 22 minutes. So you won't even finish, right? The UCAT is designed that way. No matter how good you get, you're not supposed to finish verbal reasoning. But something we're going to do is learn how to pick and choose which questions to do first, which questions to leave behind, right? And when I say leave behind, I mean like you need to triage those questions, i.e. don't do them in the order they come, right? Now, this is something a lot of students say to me, but why? And I'm going to give you an example right now. Now, when I'm about to start my next job in emergency medicine, I've just finished my 1 year as my first year as a doctor. I'm about to finish my next job in emergency medicine on Wednesday. Okay, I've got my induction and then I'm doing nights. Now, in emergency medicine, I don't know if you guys have ever gone to A&E or not, but you will get all sorts of patients. You will get patients who've had strokes. You'll have patients who'll have heart attacks. But sometimes you get patients who've just come in because they fell over and they grazed their arm. Usually students, right? So if I'm there as the doctor and I've got patients waiting who've got a heart attack, I've got another patient waiting who's got a stroke, and then I've got this student who fell over, had a graze whilst they were a little bit drunk, and now their arm hurts a little bit, right? If I waste all my time with that patient who's grazed their arm, is perfectly stable, the patient who's got a heart attack and the patient who's got a stroke, their window of treatment is running low, right? There's not that much time left to go and help them or even save their life. Think of that in the UCAT, right? A difficult question and an easy question are worth the same marks, just like every patient has one life, right? You only get one shot to save them. So think of it that way. So if you spend all your time, waste all your time on a difficult question, those easy marks, the really serious patients, you're forgetting about them. Okay, so that's something I just want you guys to think about. And we're going to go through some questions and kind of explain to you guys how you can apply that technique, how you can triage questions, pick out the right ones, and therefore get a really good score. Okay, so I'm just going to reset. I'm going to reset the Mentimeter thing because I think some of you guys wanted to try it out, and you guys already guessed a few answers. Okay, so that should have reset it. What we're going to do is let's go on to the first question. I'm going to give you guys 30 seconds for this. Okay, and that is what 30 seconds feels like. So now I've been just having a look and we've got a 20-second delay, which is fine because what I'll do is I'll start explaining and then I'll keep an eye on how you guys are answering at the same time. Now, this question, right? So you come onto this question, you got a bit of a passage. The first thing we do is we always start with the question first. If you start reading the passage, in the stress of the exam, there's no way you are going to be able to read all the information in 30 seconds, retain it, and then answer the question. There's no way. It's not going to happen. So don't even try it. Especially in the stress of the exam, you'll read it, it will go right over your head and you will have no idea. And then you just have to start again. And there goes 30 or 40 seconds down the drain. So always start with the question first. Now this question, it must be true that. This question has no keywords, okay? Because that's something we look for. And I'm going to show you how in the next few questions, but it has no keywords, which means we have to go through each option one at a time. This is the kind of question that I would triage, okay? I would guess something, I would flag it for review, and then I would move on. Now, I can see from the answers, a lot of you have picked, well, there's been multiple answers all over, but majority of you have picked B, okay? And this is how the interaction works. Great, I love that. This is working perfect. You know, huge shout out to SAMDA for doing that at this scale, because normally the courses I run, we do it at like, you know, we have like 40 students or so. So obviously the interaction is a lot easier in that sense. But yeah, great work, guys. Okay, so let's go through it. So you go through each statement one at a time. Okay, the knowledge has changed twice since it was initiated. My keyword would be initiated, and I would look for that. I would scan very quickly. Now, what I mean by scan is you glance your eyes left and right through the text until you find your keyword. Okay, so my keyword is right there. It's a bit like Where's Wally, but instead of playing it with pictures, you do it with words. Okay, now scanning is something that's going to take you a few weeks to get good at. I'm not expecting you guys to be experts by the end of today. That's not going to happen. It's almost like a skill. Okay. So, I mean, just to give you another example, I love my stories and things like that. I used to do kickboxing. Now, if someone showed me like a tornado kick, which is where you fly up in the air and do a kick, right? It looks super cool. There's no way I'm going to be able to do it in my first session, right? But if you practice one day, right, you'll be able to do it. If you actually go far down on my Instagram, there's a video where I do it. But anyways, more about that later. We're going to come back to the UCAT. So it was initiated in 1865 and has changed little since. So no, it's not changed twice, it's changed little. So in my head, I'm going to be like, A is incorrect, I'm going to move on. The second one says there are 25,000 streets within a 6-mile radius of Charing Cross. Now numbers are amazing keywords. Okay, they're really easy to pick out. And if you guys look there, and so it says some 25,000 streets within a 6-mile radius. Now a lot of you have selected B, and I can see why, right? Because you see a keyword, but part of the reason verbal reasoning is so difficult and the UCAT is so difficult is because the UCAT language that you guys need to be aware of is different to what you're used to. Now, this word here is what's crucial. Some 25,000 streets. The statement says there are 25,000 streets. That is not an exact match. And therefore, B is not correct either. Sorry, guys, but that's just how it is. But you know what? I love the fact that we can make mistakes in preparation because that's how we learn. That is how you guys are going to learn from making mistakes. So don't worry if you got that wrong. Let's continue. Shorter courses for suburban London consist of less than 320 runs. My keyword here would be suburban London, and I can find it down here. Now, one reason some of you may not have found that is because when you're scanning, people tend to not scan the first few lines and the last few lines. Always start right at the top, go all the way to the bottom, okay? So it says shorter courses for suburban London with 30 to 50 runs. 30 to 50 is less than 320. Therefore, C is the correct answer. You select that and happy days. Okay, so that's how we do this question. Now, another important thing, once you've selected your answer, you would click on it as you guys have done on Mentimeter, but obviously on test day it'll be different. Don't waste any time reading D, okay? And I know only black cab drivers need to sit the knowledge. Took me 3 seconds to read, didn't it? But 3 seconds times by 44 questions is a lot of time. That's almost like 3 or 2.5 minutes, 2 minutes roughly, right? And that amount of time you don't want to waste. 2 minutes is 4 marks. 4 marks is about 30, 40 points, right? Which could be the difference between you getting into med school or dental school or not. So little things like that, my job is to teach you guys little tricks that save you a few seconds here and there, which all add up and give you guys an amazing score. Right, so we've done the first one. We'll speed up a little bit because we're falling behind time, but we'll do a few more questions, okay? So 30 seconds for the next question, and I'm just going to reset the Mentimeter to stay on the same screen. So yeah, 30 seconds, go for it. All right, and that is 30 seconds over. See, 30 seconds feels quite quick, doesn't it? And again, don't worry if you're not getting to the answer straight away. These questions, I don't expect you to. Okay, you're right at the beginning of your prep or near the beginning of your prep, so don't worry too much for now. But this is something, little techniques that we're going to learn throughout this session that are going to help you massively. Okay, so again, we go straight to the question. The knowledge is demanding because it does not. Now, the word not is quite an important one. Okay, this means this is a negative question. So in the previous question, we were looking for something that is true, something that matches the passage. In this case, it's a negative question. We're no longer looking for something that's true. We're looking for something that's not true. Okay, so just be careful about that and be aware of that. So the first thing, again, the question does have a keyword. The knowledge is demanding. I'm going to look for that. And again, you can go to the second paragraph. Now, when you have keywords in your comprehension questions that are A, B, C, D, they have 4 statements. You can find your keyword in a paragraph and you know that most of the information is going to be contained within that paragraph. You can either read the whole thing, right, and then summarize it and then answer your question, or you can go through each one at a time and then apply it just to that paragraph. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the second one. We're going to go through each one at a time and apply it just to that paragraph. So so the knowledge is demanded because it does not, and then take 34 months to pass on average. And it says averaging 34 months to pass. Now, some of you would get really excited, and as I can tell, most of you have answered A. I can see that, right? You guys would have seen, oh my God, I found a match. Let me select that. But remember, it's a negative question. If you see something that matches the text, you're supposed to eliminate it. Okay, very easy mistake to make, but there's some really simple ways you can get around it. Again, we don't have all the time to talk about that now, but that's where the full day course comes in. Anyway, so it consists of 10 appearances. So let's think about a number close to 10. And here we go. So it says you usually need to pass at least 12 appearances. So this is something that's not a match. Okay, and that's the answer I select. So B was actually the second most popular choice that you guys selected. So well done those of you that did, but don't worry if you got it wrong. And again, what we're going to do is we're not going to waste time reading C and D. We're going to save those 5 to 10 seconds. We're going to bank them and take them on to the next question. Again, saving that time. And in this case, time is more important sometimes than getting the marks. All right, guys, good stuff. Well done. Let's go on to the next question. 30 seconds for this as well. Okay, and now we're coming to the end of the 30 seconds. So this question is slightly different. Now I've changed that. Now just to point out to you guys, on test day, you won't have comprehension and true, false, can't tell questions with the same passage. I've only done that to give you guys a taste of different types of questions. So on test day, you would have one passage and all 4 questions will either be true, false, can't tell or comprehension. Okay, like I said, I've only done that just to give you guys a taste that there's easier and harder questions. Okay, and this is exactly what I was talking about. There are patients with very serious conditions and there are patients with not so serious conditions that can wait a little bit. I'm not saying you don't see them at all. I'm saying you still see those patients, but you see the serious ones first. Like similarly with the UCAT, you do the harder questions. Yeah, we'll do them, but we'll do them afterwards. Okay, exactly like that. So on test day, you will have about a third of the exam is going to be built up of the true, false, can't tell questions. Okay, so those are going to be the easy ones. So focus on those as well and get them done. A taxi driver must know points of interest, including streets, squares, clubs, hostels, and theaters. Now, I can see most of you selected A, pretty much all of you selected A actually, and only a few selected B, C, and D, or no, B and C. There is no D, but anyway, right? So let's have a look. We got our keywords, right? So it takes us to that paragraph, and again, we identify the keywords very carefully. Now, this question I wrote myself, and it works every single time. The whole point of this question is it's sneaky and it catches you guys out, right? And I'm really sorry, I don't mean to, but we make mistakes and that's how we learn, right? So when you do a question, you want to come to the question really quick. I want you to read the question super quick. I want you to identify the keywords super quick. I want you to scan, find the keywords nice and quick. Okay, great. Then I want you to slow down a bit. I want you to read that sentence or that line, read it slowly, understand it, make some sense of it. Now, here it says hostels and here it says hotels. Now that is way too picky and the UCAT will never be this mean. I'm just super mean today because I'm doing that to you guys, but this is there to prove a point, okay? Just be careful because you will make mistakes otherwise. Look out for things, and the more practice you do with the right kind of techniques, you will get better and better. So this question goes from being a match, which a lot of you thought being true, to now being can't tell, because we can't tell if they have hotels or not, right? So the correct answer was can't tell, and a few of you got it correct, so well done those of you that spotted it, but majority of you, almost 90% of you, didn't spot it, okay? Again, this is why verbal reasoning is always scored super low every year. But I want you guys to be slightly different because you guys are going to have different techniques that you can apply and hopefully smash that section. Right, final question from verbal reasoning. Let's give you guys another 30 seconds and I'm just going to reset the Mentimeter thing. Okay, so that is your 30 seconds over. So the guide to learning the knowledge includes 25,000 roots. Now this is again to show you guys another example where as we get through the passage, we kind of know where the keywords are. We already know where 25,000, I found it last time, right? It's right there. So we're going to highlight that. And it says the guide to learning the knowledge includes 25,000 roots. And actually, if you look at that line above that, it actually says that there's 320 standard roots, right? So this is a false answer. It contradicts because it gives me the information, but it gives me something different to what I want to know. Therefore, I'm going to select false, move on, happy days, got an answer. Okay, guys, so that's essentially what verbal reasoning is like in a very quick nutshell. We only did 4 questions, but obviously if you guys can't cover everything, there's so much more that I want to talk to you guys about, but with the time, we're only going to touch on a few things. Right, let's go on to decision making next. So decision making is going to be the second section. So the order I'm doing the sections in today is going to be the exact same order they're going to come on test day. Okay, so decision making is going to be the next section. It's going to be 29 minutes long. Sorry, 29 questions long, 31 minutes. I want you guys to spend no more than a minute per question, and that will leave a nice 2 minutes at the end to go back to the harder questions. Okay, now again, we're going to just do a few types of questions. There's 6 different types of questions in total. Okay, we're going to do just a few of those. Again, time limited. But on test day, the way you approach each different of those 6 questions is different, right? You triage some of them, you do some of them, and there's different things and techniques we're going to talk about. Right, so I'm going to give you guys a minute for the next question, and I want you guys to give it a go, and I will reset Mentimeter and also add in an extra option, okay? So give this one a go in 1 minute. All right, so that's a minute over. Now, what we're going to do is when you come into the decision making, so there's different types of questions. Some of them you can identify super quick. Just by looking at this question straight away, I can't tell which type of question it is. So I'm going to start reading it. I'm going to start reading it from the top. During the recent GCSE exam, some of the students sat the music exam, 190 sat the biology exam, 40 sat the French exam. Some students sat multiple exams, including 2 or all 3 of the above subject. Now, that bit there tells me this is a Venn diagram question, okay? Because if you got 2 or 3 things happening together, the best way to represent that is through a Venn diagram. Okay, so I know Venn diagram questions are one type of question. So what I'm going to do start off is I'm going to draw my Venn diagram. I'm going to draw 3 circles overlapping each other in a way where you got them on their own, you've got them with overlapping just one other, and then overlapping all 3. Okay, so that's the first thing. If you try to do this question in your head, there's no way you're going to be able to do it. Whereas if you try and do it properly using a Venn diagram, using your noteboard, which thank God to UCAT for bringing it back. When they said no noteboard and you guys have a sketch pad, I was panicking. On the outside, I was like, don't worry, guys, it'll be fine. But inside, I was like, oh my God, how are you guys going to do it? So when they brought the UCAT noteboard back, I was so happy for you guys. Okay, that was a huge weight off everyone's shoulders. Anyway. So you then read on, and as you read on, you add in the information that you already know. So I'm going to assign different subjects to the circles so I know which one they are. I'm also going to write down the numbers from what I already know, and then 40 sat the French exam. So I'm going to put that there. Fine. So then add an extra bit. So it says 15 students sat only the music exam. So 15 goes there, just music. 142 sat the biology exam. So just bio, 142 on its own. 9 of the students sat both the music and the French exam. So we're going to put 9 in there. So we've got music and French being overlapped. And then it says 6 of the students sat French and biology. So again, put 6 where the French and biology circles overlap. And then 8 students sat biology, music, and French. So 8 where all 3 overlap. Now the question says, how many students sat both the music and the biology exam, which is this bit? And this is a simple thing, a simple equation. We know what this circle totals. Yeah, it totals 190. So all you got to do is do 190, take away these numbers. And when you do that, you get to the answer, which is 34. So well done those of you that got it correct. Now, the thing is, getting it correct, fine. Okay. A majority of you, about 50%, just under 50% got it correct. That's good. But when I looked at this question, when only a minute had gone past, hardly any of you had got it correct. Okay. Maybe just a few of you from the hundreds that are watching. So that's the thing, right? The UCAT is not a difficult exam. What makes it hard is doing it within the time limit. So knowing little strategies that are going to help you speed up are going to get you a higher mark. Right, let's try another question. So we're going to do another type of question within decision making. I'll give you guys another minute to give this one a go. All right, we're coming up to a minute finishing. So a minute is over now. And just about looking at the number of answers of the hundreds watching, 12 have answered so far, right? Again, timing is one thing. Okay, so let's go through it as I'll let the rest of you guys answer, and more answers are now coming in, which is good. Okay, so Tom, what we're going to do is not start from this bit at the top, okay? We're going to start with a question. Now, just by looking at the answers, I can tell this is a probability question or a maths question within a decision-making section. So we always read the question first. Has the chance of blue paperclip being randomly selected now increased when Tom next takes paperclip from the box? Okay, I need to work out the probabilities of the scenario that's given at the top. So the first thing we're going to do is read the information. Tom has a box of paper clips which contains 24 red paper clips and 12 blue paper clips, okay? So let's work out what the initial ratio is, or the probability is, of me picking a blue paper clip. So it's 12 over the total. So 12 and 24 is 36. And the initial thing is 1/3, okay? So 1/3. Now, I simplified 12 over 36 to get that. Now, one thing you need to work with is your mental maths as well. Okay, so start working with your mental maths, and there's multiple ways of doing that. One thing you can do is just obviously practice more questions, but also just type in mental maths games on Google, and you will have tons of different ways of learning. Anyway, so the first thing is it was 1/3. So I'm going to eliminate anything that doesn't start with 1/3. Okay, so C and D get eliminated because it has to start with that. Okay. Now the next thing is how many are left. So 6 red paper clips are taken away. 6 blue paper clips have been used. So again, this is another part of UCAT language. This is to confuse you to say only 6 of each are left. That's not the case. This is how many have been taken away. So you have an additional step of working out how many are remaining. So 6 blue remaining over a 24, which is a total, and it's now a quarter. Okay, so again, I'm going to look for 1/3, a quarter. I'm going to select D as my answer. So those of you that selected it, well done, good job. But again, speeding up is the key to the UCAT. Right, so that's done with that's us done with the decision-making section. Again, because of time, I'm going to try and cover everything in just an hour. But with the full-day course, we can go through all the different sections, which will be super useful for all of you guys. Right, quantitative reasoning is going to be the 3rd section. Now, if I showed you the average scores again, quantitative reasoning tends to be the easiest section every year. This is the maths section, right? Now, the maths in this section is not difficult. It's just the timing and knowing how to triage, knowing which questions to do first, knowing the little shortcuts is where it's at. Okay. Now, this was my best section when I did the UCAT. So again, back then I scored 840 on this, and that really boosted my entire average up, and it helped me get in the first decile, right? Which allowed me to get all my interviews, which is great, right? But what I would say is, even though if it's not your best section, you will have at least 1 or 2 strengths. So use those and try and work on those sections as well to get a high score. Now, if you think the maths is not your thing, don't worry, because this section is not just about maths. That's something you can improve. There's more to it. Anyway, you'll have 9 data sets. So these can be graphs, pie charts, tables, whatever, and you will have 4 questions each. Sometimes you will have a standalone question as well, where it will have no data, it will just be a question. Don't get thrown off by that. That may happen too. You'll have 24 minutes for this section. Now, what I want you guys to do is spend 30 seconds per question. If you do that, you will have somewhere between 4 to 6 minutes at the end. That is an amazing amount of time to then take back to your harder questions and answer those as well. Now, I got this score, 840. Again, like I said, without knowing half the things I know now, right? So with the stuff I'm going to arm you with, you guys can, I wouldn't be surprised at all if you guys were smashing this section, getting even 900s. Okay. So let's have a look. Let's give you guys 30 seconds for the first question. Okay, now 30 seconds are over. So let's go through this question. Now, this is quite a tricky one, okay? Let's read the question. Again, we ignore everything at the top. Don't focus on that. Don't look at the data. There's no need. Go straight to the question. With quantitative reasoning, you always start with the question because you need to know what you're looking for. Now, it says Rory's mortgage budget includes mortgage for 2 properties, a house and a flat. The mortgage for the flat is 6%. His monthly budget. The mortgage of his house is what percentage of his monthly mortgage budget? And I bet you guys read that and were like, what is going on? If you ever get that feeling, and again, I can tell just by looking at the answers, only about 20 of you have answered so far, right? So this goes to show this question is difficult, not doable in 30 seconds. So I wouldn't expect you guys to be able to do it in 30 seconds, right? When you read a question and you're just immediately like, oh my God, what's happening? That's your clue right there. Flag it, guess it, move on. Triage that question. Anyway, when you come back to it, even then there's ways to make your equations simpler. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to focus on the types of mortgages. So we look at the mortgage category. It's a nice number, 25%, which is a quarter of a pie chart. So I'm going to use my noteboard and draw a quarter of a pie chart. Okay, then it says that includes his mortgage for a house and a flat. Okay, the mortgage for the flat is 6% of his monthly budget. The monthly budget is the entire pie chart, so whatever's remaining as well. So I'm going to put in 6% like that, right? The mortgage of his house is what percentage of his monthly mortgage budget. So if I've got 6% there and there's total of 25, that means I've got 19 remaining. Okay, so 19% is what the mortgage budget is of the monthly budget. Now, there's a bit more to that. Again, you can have a look, and that 19 is not there. And I could have been super mean, and I could have put 19 in there to really throw you guys off. But what this question is really asking is, what part is this of this? Okay, so you want to do an equation, which is 19 over 25. You get an answer 0.76. Now, you guys will be in the habit of then multiplying that by 100 to get this number. Please stop doing that, right? That's going to take you a second, maybe in a second and a half, maybe even 2 seconds. 2 seconds every 36 questions is more than a minute. A minute is 2 easy marks. Okay, so you don't have the time for that. So get in the habit of just reading this and knowing that's 76%, that's C, that's what I'm going to select. Now, looking at the answers, about 18% of you got that correct. Okay, so that's quite low. Now, the reason for that is because this was a difficult question, A, and secondly, it was confusing and you guys probably didn't know how to get to the answer. You would have avoided all of those problems had you triaged it. So again, remember triaging. Okay, that's the one thing I kind of pride myself on, like helping you guys master, especially with my background in having done the integrated degree in pre-hospital medicine with the London Air Ambulance, and I've had some amazing lectures from people who are an absolute masters when it comes to triaging patients. So I've learned a lot of that. We did modules based on training and how the brain works and all these things. I could go on it for hours, but it's just things that really help you boost your score. Right, let's do a slightly nicer UCAT question. Okay, same data set, a similar question, 30 seconds. Okay, slightly different question this time, a bit shorter. Again, that tells me it's going to be a nicer, quicker question. Also, just a bit easier, 30 seconds. This is very much doable, okay? And this is just to show you how within the same data sets, you will have questions of varying difficulties, again, allowing you to triage very well. So how much more does Rory spend per month on food than gym? So those are my 2 points. I'm going to focus on food and gym, okay? So the way I do this question is I've got 23%, which is the food bit. I'm just going to write F here, so food. 23% times by his total monthly salary, and that gives me a figure for his monthly salary. Now notice how the wrong answers are also going to be in the answers. Okay, UCAT loves to do that to throw you guys off, because every time you see a number on your calculator, if you even glance at the answers, right, you'll be like, oh my god, I've got an answer, and then you may select the wrong answer. Next, we do the same for gym, and we've got 0.04 times by 3200, 128. Again, the wrong answers are always there, right? But knowing what you're actually trying to do, again, if we read the question, say you came onto this question for the first time, you read, how much more does Rory spend per month on food than gym? So I know I need to find the difference between food and gym. So we need to find the difference between here. I can already eliminate these two, and I've already eliminated this and this. So I don't even need to do the last step. I just know the answer is going to be B. That's another little way you can save time. But I guarantee you, right? So this is a question so far where we've had almost a unanimous decision. 123 people have said B, which is amazing. Well done, all of you. Okay, that's great. But I'm going to guess, and this is from my experience of doing this on a Zoom session where I can see all of you and everything, I'm going to guess about 80% of you did it this way, right? And put your hand up, even though I can't see you, you did it this way. Great. But there's going to be a few of you who did it a different way, okay? The different way is, instead of finding the difference at the end, why not find the difference between the percentages right at the beginning, 19%, and then do that equation just once. So 0.19, the difference, 19%, times by the monthly salary, you get the same answer straight away. Now, what that means is less numbers typed in the calculator, less chances of error. And on average, when I do this question in class, I can see all of you guys. I can see, like, either virtually or in class before COVID. I can see you guys. Those of you who do it this way, on average, do it 10 to 15 seconds quicker. Now, 10 to 15 seconds, just imagine multiplying that by 36 questions. That is how you get above 800 or even hit 900 in quantitative reasoning. Every question has a quicker way of doing it. And again, my job is to help you identify how to do that. And with different questions, there's different strategies and different techniques. And again, this is what separates students who get 600 from those that get 800, this kind of stuff. But now you guys know. So look out for that stuff. We'll come back to that later. All right, I'm going to give you guys another 30 seconds just to have a look at this question. I bet you already you don't want to do this, do you? Okay. Any question that makes you go a bit like this. Now, this is a picture I took after I saw a patient, like a few hours after I saw a patient when I was on my elective in Phoenix, Arizona. A patient who came in with a very nasty injury where he had a knife sticking out of his chest. And this was a few hours after I tried to recreate it. I was like, oh my God, let me just record that reaction. You know, now relating that, when you see a shocking thing, like you just know this patient is very critical. You just know that because just the way they present. Apply that to the UCAT. This question is very critical, right? Just the way it presents, right? I love the fact that you can relate the UCAT to medicine or dentistry. I don't know too much about dentistry, so I'm not going to touch on that too much, but to medicine, you can definitely relate it, okay? Now, this question tells me I'm going to end up wasting tons of time. I'm not going to have the chance to finish it. You know, those of you who are competitive, who love to get the answer, just, I don't know, go get a puzzle book. Go do something else where you can explore your competitive nature. The UCAT is not the place to mess about. Okay, so this kind of question, I would just guess flag, move on. I wouldn't even come back to that. You know, I'll be like, you know what? I give up. Like, I'm not doing this question. And remember what I told you guys earlier. To get 900, you don't need every single question correct. You can get up to 3 sometimes marks wrong and still get 900. So this would be one question. I'll be like, you know what? You win. I'll be like, you win, right? You take that mark. I'm happy. So don't waste that time on this kind of question. Okay, guys. So I hope that kind of makes sense. And again, you guys understand how you can relate the UCAT to medicine or even dentistry if that's what you're applying for. Right, the next section is going to be abstract reasoning. Now, whenever I tell my friends, or I even tell my consultant when they ask me, oh, well, they see me writing notes with the Medic Life pen and they're like, oh, what's that? And I'm like, oh, it's my company. And they're like, oh, what do you teach? The UCAT. And then everyone's like, oh, isn't that the exam that we did ages ago? So all the doctors are like, isn't that the exam that has all the shapes? Why did we even do that? And I bet some of you are thinking, what have shapes got anything to do with medicine? And to be honest, I'm not even joking. And this section is probably the most similar to medicine out of all of them. Okay, the way it's similar is because in abstract reasoning, it's all about pattern recognition, and medicine is all about pattern recognition, right? You go to university. So I went to Barts. I went there for 6 years, 5 years of medicine, 1 year of my integrated degree. And over those 6 years, I learned hundreds of different conditions. I learned the symptoms of those conditions that patients present with. Those are the patterns. Now, when I work as a doctor, I see my patients present with those symptoms. My patients are the test shape. They have a specific pattern, and I need to then think about which pattern they fit, i.e., what symptoms fit the condition that I know about and how can I treat that, right? So if you think about that, again, this exam is amazing. I love it. So think about that. And that's why, you know, that should hopefully motivate you. And again, things like ECGs, your heart traces, x-rays. I repeated multiple x-rays of my patients today. We compare them with their old x-rays to see what's changed. Yeah, that's the kind of techniques we apply in the abstract reasoning as well. We did a CT scan on a patient today who had a bleed in their head, right? Again, things like that. Okay, so abstract reasoning, you're going to have 55 questions. This is going to be the shortest section. It's going to be the section where you work at the fastest pace. Now, if I divide 55 questions by 13 minutes, I'm going to give you guys a bit of a heart attack by saying 12 seconds per question. I don't want to scare you here, so forget about that. Don't worry about that. What you should be thinking is 1 minute per set, and a set has 5 questions in it. Let's break that minute down further, okay? So you got 60 seconds in a minute. I want you to spend the first 30 seconds trying to figure out what the pattern is, okay? Try and figure out what the pattern of set A and set B is. The remaining 30 seconds, you can just blitz through the answers for the questions, for the 5 questions. And even in the next few minutes, you'll be doing that in like 4 or 5 seconds. You don't even need the whole 30 seconds, okay? So be super quick. This is key. The 30 seconds that you get to figure out the pattern. If you don't get the pattern in the first 30 seconds, you're not going to get in the next 30 as well. So guess, flag, move on. Come back to it later with a fresh set of eyes and you will have a much better shot at getting it right. Okay, 30 seconds, guys, for this pattern. All right, so the patterns I've used today are super simple ones. Well, not super simple, but relatively simple. And the reason I've used them is because I want to just get across a few important things, okay? Obviously, we can then build on to that later, but I just want to get across a few simple things, okay? And from the answers, I can see all of you got that. Well, not all of you, but most of you got it, so well done. Now, first thing we do is the abstract reasoning section is always going to have a lot of distractors, okay? Again, relating it to the patients, they will always have other things that don't always match with the symptoms. But anyway, abstract reasoning will have a lot of distractors. The way you eliminate a lot of them quickly is by starting off with the simplest box. The simplest box is the box with the least number of shapes. Sometimes there might be more than one or two, okay? And then you pick one thing. If you try and start off with very complicated, like every box has a shape, which is black, it's in the top left corner with 8 sides. Too much. The reason people find abstract reasoning difficult is because they overcomplicate it for themselves. We're going to reverse it on its head. We're going to start off basic, we're going to start off simple, and build on layers on top of that. Okay, that's the key to doing well in abstract reasoning. So let's start with just one thing. We're going to think of what shape this is. This is a cross. Every box has a cross. Cool, good. I've got somewhere. Are the crosses always black? No. Are the crosses always in the top left corner? No. Is there always one cross? Well, not always just a specific one cross, but every box has a cross. And what about the size? Well, the size kind of doesn't matter because here they're a bit smaller, here's a bit bigger. It doesn't really matter. So we've got a cross so far. Now let's move on to the triangle. Does every box have a triangle? Yes, it does. Okay. Again, apply that same thing. Are the triangles always black? No. Are they always in the bottom right corner? No. Are they always the same size? No. So every box has a cross and a triangle. Cool. Now set B is going to be similar in some sense. So let's look at the simplest boxes here and here. Does every box have a trapezium? No, it doesn't. So we're not interested anymore. Does every box have a diamond? Yes. Okay. So again, similar thing. Is the diamond always black? No, it isn't. Is it always to the right? No, it isn't. Is it always large? No, it isn't. And therefore, I'm going to just conclude to the fact that every box has a triangle and a cross in set A and a diamond in set B, and other things are not relevant. Now, notice how we went through each thing systematically. You do that, you will get every single pattern. Okay. And that's the tricky bit, knowing how to do it properly. Okay, so that's just one of the tips that I'm going to share with you guys today. So based on that, like you guys said, this is set A, right? So the next one, again, we're going to run through these really quickly, but I just want you guys to say it out loud because in the time I change your Mentimeter, it's going to take ages. But just think about it, say it out loud, and you guys will know this doesn't have a cross. It has a triangle, but it doesn't have a cross. So it's definitely not A. It does have a diamond, so it's B. What about this one? Again, say it out loud, right? Even though I can't hear you, but I know what you guys are saying. I bet you guys are saying C. This doesn't have a triangle or a cross. It doesn't have a diamond either. And there we go. So what I was telling you guys earlier, if you spend 30 seconds figuring out the pattern, you don't even need 12 seconds per question. You only need like 2 to 3 seconds to figure it out. Okay, the next one, you've got a triangle and a cross. So it's A. And I bet a lot of you are probably saying, yeah, it's A. But guys, don't forget the diamond. It's B as well. So when you get a test shape, which is A and B, you have to select neither. That's something a lot of people make mistakes on. Okay, so this one's neither. Okay, just be careful with that. Now the next one, again, let's look for a triangle. We've got the triangle. There is no cross, so it can't be A, but it does have a diamond, so it's just B. All right, good stuff. And then let's have a look at this one. Now 30 seconds for this test shape. All right, so let's go through this one. So this one's slightly trickier, not super tricky, but slightly trickier. Okay, again, we're going to start off with the simplest box. And now I'm going to show you something, which I'm sure you guys have heard of it before. It's something I used like 8 years ago. Okay, it's been around forever. Everyone talks about it, but I'm going to show you how to apply it. Okay, it's called SCANS. We all know what it stands for: shape, color, arrangement, number, size. It's been going on for donkey's years, but a lot of people just think, oh, SCANS, whatever, right? I'll just remember it. What's the point? But you need to know how to apply it. Okay, and that's what I did on the previous question, but I'm going to show you how to properly do it. And I can tell that you guys are finding this question hard because we have an exactly even split between A, B, and C. All right, so whereas the last question, like 80% of you were like, yes, A, right? This one, there's an even split. I wish you could see my screen. Okay, so you start off with the simplest box because it's the one that has the least number of distractors. I'm going to write down SCANS. I'm going to write down shape, color, arrangement, number, size, and you can do that on your noteboard if you like. You can do it in your head, whatever works for you. And I'm going to start off with shape. What shapes have I got here? Okay, I've got a rectangle. Well, you guys are going to be like, no, well, this is a square, don't you know? But again, if you study the UCAT like I've done, like, yeah, I'm that sad. But if you think about this UCAT the way, over the years and years, and you look through thousands and thousands of questions, I can't even tell you how many, you realize that the UCAT doesn't differentiate between rectangles and squares, okay? A square is a four-sided shape, right, with 4 right angles, okay? So is a rectangle, four-sided shape with 4 right angles. The only difference is a square is a regular rectangle. But for the purpose of the UCAT, just say rectangles, okay? So we've got rectangles in every box. Yes, we do. Are they always black? No, they're not. Are they always arranged in this order? No, they're not. How many do we have? We have 2 rectangles. Are they always the same size? No, they differ in size. So my pattern for set A is every box has 2 rectangles. Look at that doctor's handwriting right there. Let's fix it up, right? So two rectangles, okay? So what we're gonna have a look at now, set B. Now I know that we're looking at the category of shape and we're looking at number as well. I'm gonna start off with this box. I've got 4 here, I've got 5, I've got 6, 3, 3, 4. You know what? Let's say it in a nice way, which kind of covers all of that. I'm gonna say more than 2, okay? So that way I can differentiate between A and B. So in set A, I've got 2 rectangles. In set B, I've got more than 2. So based on that, this one's going to be set A, which a third of you said correct. So because I'm sure you guys found this one a little bit harder, hence why a third of you said it correct. Now, a lot of you may not have got this pattern in the first 30 seconds. If that happens to you, guess all 5, flag them, move on, come back to it at the end, and then look at it with a fresh set of eyes and apply scans again and see where you get. Okay, that's what I will say to you. That's very important. Okay, so the next one, what do you guys think? Now that you know the pattern, once you know the pattern, super easy. I bet you guys are screaming is B because it's got more than 2, right? So more than 2, which means set B. We move on to the next one. Again, nice and simple. We've got more than 2. That's also set B. Last one, this one, we've only got 1. So that's not A. It's not B. It's going to be neither. And then the final one, we've got 1 and 2. So that is A. All right, that's how simple abstract reasoning can be. If you want it to be. If you overcomplicate it, it's going to stay that way. Right, guys, the final section of the UCAT is the situational judgment test. Sorry, I keep saying situational judgment test. It's because when you finish med school or dental school, right at the end, final year, you do the situational judgment test, which is a 2-hour exam, and it counts for, wait for it, 50% of all your points when you're applying for a job. Okay, so when you're applying for foundation year 1 training, I think someone counted, I did 42 exams in 6 years of medicine. And that all accounted for 50% of my, what you call it, foundation points, FPAS points, or whatever you want to call it. Okay. And then the other 50% come from a 2-hour exam called the SJT. This is how important ethics is. Okay. So do not forget about this section, even though it's banded rather than a score. Okay. So just to give you guys an idea. So this section is not terribly difficult. It's not as time pressured as the other sections. The thing that makes it hard is it's got lots of questions, 69. It's quite long and it comes at the end of the test. You guys are going to be feeling a bit drained by this stage. You're going to be tired. You still got tons to read and kind of figure out and answer and all that. Okay, so you've got 22 scenarios. These scenarios are going to be like ethical issues, other kind of things. And you'll have 3 to 5 questions based on each scenario. And this is how much time you have. What I would recommend is spend no more than 30 seconds reading the scenario, okay? And then spend about 10 seconds answering the question. The questions are not that difficult because all the questions, there's only 3 types of question. And as long as you know what types they are, it's super easy and you can just get through them. Okay, so you won't even need 10 seconds as long as you don't overthink and second guess yourself. So don't do that. Let's give you guys a bit of a taste of what it's like. Okay, so 30 seconds just to read the scenario and then we'll do the questions together. All right, so when you read the question, okay, so you read the question and you kind of like figure out what the main issue is, what the problem is. In this case, the problem is patient confidentiality. Niels put stuff on his Instagram post, which although doesn't explain patient details completely, it is still a bit risky, okay? So the first thing is make a complaint to consultant about Niels' social media post. All right, what do you guys think? And some of the answers are now coming in, and this is the thing where situational judgment section has lots of varying opinions depending on what kind of a person you are. But I'm just going to give you guys a bit of an idea of how the UCAT thinks. Okay, so first of all, this question is a very inappropriate thing to do, because what you want to think about is, what's the first thing you're going to do? What's the first most important thing you're going to do? Is it going to be straight away go to the consultant and complain, right? Going to the consultant and complaining is probably the last thing you're going to, well, not the last thing, but it's going to be the thing that you do after you've exhausted all other options to fix the problem, okay? First thing you might want to do is maybe talk to Neil and be like, are you aware what you've done, right? Whereas just make a complaint, because making a complaint is going to affect your relationship with Neil. It's going to create a problem in the team. It's going to make the consultant raise issues with Neil. Again, it's going to escalate way too much, way too quickly. Okay, so the first thing we do, again, with the UCAT, and even when you guys come to do your situation judgment test in a few years' time, is how you escalate things when something goes wrong. So think about that. Okay, so good stuff here. What we're going to do is I'm just going to reset to here again and give you guys a chance to answer the second one. So contact Neil, advising him to remove the social media post. Now see, this is what I mean. So now you talk to your colleague one-to-one and you're like, listen, Neil, what you've done, by the way, I think that you may be breaching confidentiality, and give him a reason. Maybe Neil didn't think about it that way, right? So he may be completely oblivious to that fact. In that case, like a lot of you guys are saying, it's a very appropriate thing to do. So what I want you guys to do in the first instance, as soon as you read the question, remember I said, spend no more than 10 seconds reading a question. When you read a question, immediately think, is this a good thing or is this a bad thing? And that's going to kind of help you differentiate between the first two options and the second two options. And then think, are there any problems? Are there any new problems being created by this thing? Or are there any solutions coming from it? And that's what's going to help you identify between B and C. Again, we would do a lot more examples if we had the time, but we're just going to do 2 more. Let's give you guys a different scenario. And I'm going to give you guys a chance to just read this and then we'll do it together. Okay, again, and some scenarios are going to be shorter than others. So even 30 seconds, you don't need to use the whole 30 seconds. You can get through the section quickly. A lot of my students tell me they get through the section in half the time. So timing is not the problem here. The problem here is knowing what kind of things are important, how to figure it out, and also just, keeping calm and not second guessing yourself. The main reason a lot of people make mistakes is when they start second guessing themselves, they make errors. Anyway, the problem here is that your colleague Declan is basically being negligent. And he doesn't want to label the bottles, says it shouldn't be my job to label the bottles, so I don't pay attention. And that can be quite dangerous, especially when you're taking bloods from patient. If you label them incorrectly, say you take blood from patient X and you label them as patient Y's blood, that's going to be bad, because then you treat patient X based on the results you would get from Y, and again, not good. Okay, so tell Declan to ask the phlebotomist to do the bloods for his patients. Right? So be like, you know what, you're right, you don't need to do them. Just go and tell the phlebotomist to do them, right? What do you guys think? So initially, think about, is this a good or a bad thing? And again, looking at the answers, a lot of you guys think it's a bad thing. So you guys are below the line, okay? About 70% of you are below the line, C or D. The next thing you ask yourself, okay, so we've already eliminated A and B. Next thing you ask yourself is, could there be a solution from this bad situation? And think about it, right? If you ask the phlebs, were you passing on a job that you should be doing? Okay, phlebotomists are great. I used to be one. That's why they're great. But then no, they genuinely are. They help you out massively. But it doesn't mean you just go and give all of your bloods to them, right? You book the bloods in advance and you do them, but not all of them, right? So if you do that, that's bad. You're basically giving away your job. But at least if the phlebs do it, they're going to do it right. Right? So now at least patients are being safe. So that's why you say it's inappropriate, but not awful. So well done to about 22% of you guys who said that answer. It's a good stuff. Well done. Okay. But that's exactly what I'm trying to get at. So this is where situation judgment can be a bit tricky. But what I would recommend you guys do is write this down. GMC, good medical practice. It's like a 34-page document that you can just type into Google and you'll get it. Read the thing. Okay. It will give you a lot of things that you should do as doctors, med students. You don't even have to read the whole thing. Just read the first few pages, which highlight all the main important points, and you'll be very good for this section. Well, you'll understand the section a bit better, but still applying the UCAT techniques is still something you have to do. And then finally, question number 4, let me just reset before I talk about that so you guys can answer that as well. Question number 4, remind Declan of the importance of labeling blood bottles correctly. Okay, again, what do you guys think? This is a nice and simple one. So maybe Declan just doesn't realize, right? One of the first things you guys should always do is just talk to your colleagues, right? Maybe Declan doesn't realize how important it is, for whatever reason. It may be a simple thing, but that simple thing might fix the problem in the best possible way. And if you still continue to do it, then you can escalate further, right? Then you can escalate to your senior, you can escalate to the consultant, to Declan's supervisor, to your supervisor, whatever you want to do, right? Those things come later. Right, guys, hopefully that gave you guys a bit of an understanding of what the UCAT is all about. Now, the other types of questions in situational judgment are going to be the importance questions, similar process, okay? You still, A, B, C, and D, you still kind of think about this, is this important or not important? So make that initial judgment, and then you can talk about, yes, it's not really important at all, but maybe it could be a little bit important, in which case you decide C, or it's very important, but then there's this problem, in which case you decide B, right? Now, don't worry too much, because yes, you may start panicking, oh my God, I'm always getting them off by 1. The way the UCAT scores it is they send these questions out to a lot of doctors, nurses, med students, everyone, right? And they say to them, okay, what do you guys think? So the one that gets the most number of votes is always the option that gets the full mark. That's 1 mark. The second most popular choice gets partial marks, okay? So you may still get marks as long as you're on the right side of whether good or bad, right? So that's why situation judgment in the UCAT is not as horrible as you may think, but still prep for it. All right. What we're going to do now is go through some UCAT prep techniques, guys. I hope you guys have enjoyed the session so far. We have covered a lot. There's 10 times more that I would love to share with you, but obviously we only had an hour today. So I'm just going to talk to you guys a bit about what Medic Life does. Okay. So firstly, before we go on to that, I'm just going to give you guys a few tips on how to organize your prep. And then we'll go on to what kind of resources you guys can use. So this is something that a lot of people ask me. Remember what I was telling you guys at the beginning of the session as well, okay? Don't think that you don't need to revise for this exam. The biggest mistake some people make is like, you know what, 2 weeks is going to be enough. It's not going to be enough, because the UCAT is a skill. It's not just learning and regurgitating content, okay? It's a skill. So what I would say is everyone's going to be different. So what I'm about to tell you does not apply to every single one. It applies to modify it, adapt it slightly, okay? So the first thing is we're going to split how much time you have into 3. Now, the optimum time I say is somewhere between 4 to 6 weeks. Okay. Now, the reason I say that is because if we look at let's draw a graph. I love drawing graphs. As time goes on, you'll score. Okay. So time on the x-axis, score on the y-axis. You're going to be quite low when you initially start. Okay. And as you do more and more prep and you get better, you come along to the Medic Life course or whatever, you get better. Okay. And it starts to plateau because you've done a lot of improvement, you've done a lot of techniques and you practice, and then you start burning out and it goes down. Now, what you want to do is you want to sit your exam right at this point when you're at the highest, okay? And that is somewhere between 4 to 6 weeks for most people, okay? This is when you've got good amounts of questions. At this stage onwards, you're becoming tired, you become exhausted, you've lost the motivation, you're not putting in the work, your questions are running out, you've done all your mocks, you've not got good resources left. This is why sitting your exam 4 to 6 weeks after you've started prep is a good idea. Now, some of you may be like, oh my God, I've got my exam next week. I've done only 3 weeks of prep, but you know what? It's that 4 to 6 weeks is not set in stone. You may be one of those people who works really well in short bursts. In that case, fine. If that's what you've done, great, good job, well done, right? But if you're someone like, you know what, I've only started my prep today and my exam is next week, if that's you, that's when you need to think about whether I should push it back. And you guys can push it back. You have the opportunity. Okay. So whatever time you have left, you've got 5 weeks, 6 weeks, 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 4 weeks. Split it into 3 and decide what kind of stuff you've already done. Okay, so I talk about accuracy, working on getting the questions correct, and then working on your speed and accuracy, getting your questions correct in the right time, and then finally simulating the exam environment. Okay, so that's the 3-step process that I kind of recommend to my students all the time. First thing, now if you want to work with accuracy, again, some of you may have already done this section already. Okay, it's fine, because I know you guys have been prepping for a while. Some of you may be starting now if your exam's in mid-September. Again, please don't let this panic you. This is to an audience of 400 or 500 of you, so I can't obviously target every single one. Okay, so work with short quizzes. Okay, work on the kind of stuff we've just done today. Okay, work on the techniques, work on getting the answer correct. do untimed practice. You can do some timed practice, but start off with untimed. Don't worry about doing it correct in 30 seconds, okay? Because you may need a bit longer initially. As your scanning gets better for verbal reasoning, you'll get better. As your math skills or your techniques to pick out the quicker ways of doing equations gets better, you'll get better with quantitative reasoning as well. Again, with the abstract reasoning, you will just know more patterns, okay, as you apply more and more techniques. I would say do a mock a week, because doing a mock exam a week, a full mock, is going to give you an idea of how your progress is. That's how you can track your progress and also at the same time build up your endurance. This exam is going to be quite intense. I'm not going to lie to you. It's going to be one of those exams where you stay focused. Like, I know you guys have been there, because I've been there, where you do, like, I don't know, GCSE maths, right? You do it, you got some time to look around, like, oh my God, oh look, oh, whatever, in the exam hall, right? This exam is not like that. You are going to be staring at the screen for the entire 2 hours. You're not even going to have a chance to blink, because you're like, oh my God, I blinked, I'm wasting time. No, right? So I'm joking, do blink, please. But yeah, okay, so this exam is going to be intense. So doing a mock a week is going to give you an idea of how it's going to feel. Next thing we're going to focus on is speed and accuracy. Now we're going to hold on to what we've learned from this section, but now we're going to start doing it in the timed conditions. Start doing mini mocks. A mini mock is a mock of just one section. So it's like an entire verbal reasoning section. It's 21 minutes, 44 questions, or if you're doing quantitative reasoning mini mock, whatever. Okay, that's that. Now add into those mini mocks longer quizzes. Okay, so for example, don't just do 4 questions from decision making, because you haven't even hit every single question type. Do like 20, do like 25. Okay, and then try and do 1 to 2 mocks a week. Okay, the mocks are great because you're basically hitting every section, but then you're also experiencing how it feels. But please be careful. Don't burn yourself out. Very, very common. I hear this from my students, and I bet some of you are already getting there, right? Take some time off. Take some regular breaks. Super important. I've always, for the last few years of my life, well, luckily I haven't had any exams this year, so I'm laughing. But when I was at med school, I've done my fair share of exams, right? And I've got a few coming, like in the next few years, but right now I'm chilling. So I've always used this rule where I study hard for 45 minutes without any distractions. I turn my phone off. I don't get distracted at all. And then I take a 15-minute break. Okay, so this is something you can do here. This is something you can do here. Obviously in the mocks you can't. But yeah, so that's something you should do. And then finally, when we're simulating, you're going to save your official UCAT mocks for later, for the last 2 weeks, okay? Because that's the closest thing you're going to have to the real thing. Now, the resourcing I'm going to recommend to you, now, obviously, a lot of you already know that we work with Medify. So obviously, for me, the reason I recommend Medify is something I used 8 years ago. They've been around for more than 10 years. I recommended my brothers to use it. I recommend every single student to use it. The feedback's amazing, okay? But no matter how good a company is, Medify is amazing, right? It's the best one out there, in my opinion. No matter how good they are, it's never going to be 100% exactly the same thing. Okay, you just need to be aware of that. So save your official UCAT mocks. There's 4 of those for the last 2 weeks. Maybe you can do 1 at the beginning just to see how you need to tailor your prep, either here or here. Just do 1, but save the last 3 for the last 2 weeks. Again, if you've already used them up, don't worry, don't panic. It's fine. Okay, it's not the end of the world. It's never the end of the world. There's always other ways around it. Okay, and then you want to again do more mini mocks, do more longer quizzes, and try and again hit 2 mocks a week, or maybe even 3 in the last week and a half or something. Okay, again, just remember, burnout, it's a real killer, so don't get burnt out. Now, yes, that's all well and good, okay, but the most important thing that you should be doing along all of that 4 to 6 weeks is reviewing. Okay, you need to review your questions. Now, we did 4 verbal reasoning questions today. We did 2 decision-making questions. We did 3 quantitative reasoning questions, 10 abstract reasoning questions, and 4 situational judgment questions. That took us an hour to do. That is what I mean by reviewing properly. Okay, obviously you're not going to be reviewing them in the depth that I can review them for you, but I don't want you to just be like, oh, I got that one correct. Yay, I got 650 in this section. That's not reviewing. That's terrible. That's when you don't improve. Okay, reviewing it is looking at, thinking about, okay, what was my reaction when I first came to this question? Should I have triaged it? Should I have done it? Did I do the right thing? Those kind of things. Think more deeply, reflect on your UCAT prep. That's how you're going to get to the stage where you're going to absolutely start smashing it. Then you'll start improving. You'll start learning from every single question. You can learn from the questions you get wrong, but you can also learn from the questions you get correct. Maybe there was a quicker way of doing the same question. Okay, think about those kind of things. Make a timetable, please. Now, a student the other day sent me her timetable. It was, honestly, it blew me away. Like, wow, that's amazing. But obviously, as you can see, this is not the exact dates. But say if your exam's like, I don't know, on the 28th, we've got 5 and a bit weeks left, right? So if your exam's on a Friday, I would do a mock every Friday. I would like, you know what, I'm going to do a mock every Friday, just so I know how it feels to do a mock on a Friday. Do it at the same time that your exam's booked at. The last few weeks, I'm going to start doing 2 mocks. Sundays, I'm going to take off because you know what? I need to chill so I don't burn out. These kind of things. Now, don't get in the habit of doing Mondays, verbal reasoning, Tuesdays, decision making, Wednesdays, quantitative reasoning, because then you're not coming back to the same section for an entire week. I want you guys to do every single section every single day. Okay, except obviously on your day off, or even if you're not going to take the whole day off, take half the day off. Okay, just blank that out. Right, that's half a day at least, but you have to take some time off weekly, guys. Please do it, otherwise you will burn out. Okay, so make sure you do that, and then do every section every day. And again, you know, so for example, we're going to do a verbal reasoning mini mock on Monday. We're going to do a decision making mini mock on Tuesday, quantitative reasoning mini mock on Wednesday. But then we're also doing other quizzes. Okay, decision making, quantitative reasoning. So do other quizzes, so not just the mini mocks. That's what I mean. So every section every day, make a timetable, please. Do that either today or tomorrow, because then you need to stick to it. And that's not only going to motivate you more, that's also going to organize your prep, and you're going to be in a much better position to stick to it if you know what you're sticking to. If you have nothing to stick to, you're like, I'm just going to take this day off. Yeah, don't care, right? And then your score goes down, 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 right? So that's really important. Okay, let's talk about what resources are there. Now, like I said, I've been teaching the UCAT for a while. Used to do it for another company before, wanted to change things up a bit and make things better. So started the Medic Life. A few of you have been following me since day one, so thank you so much for that. But the Medic Life, we do a one-day classroom course. Now, that used to be an in-person classroom course last year. Now, it's obviously because of COVID, it's all going virtual, which, to be honest, I'm amazed by, because now we can follow a similar format to exam day because your questions appear on your screen like you've been sitting at home. You do it from the comfort of your home, no traveling, no crazy expenses. It means I've made the course 20% cheaper this year because I don't have to pay for renting out classrooms, right? So I don't want to take that money away. I'm just like, you know what? I'll just make it cheaper for you guys. So that's the first thing. We're going to go through techniques and methods of scoring higher on the UCAT. I have just taught you, 10% of what I know, because again, an hour. The actual course is about 8 hours long, right? We start at around 9:30 in the morning. We go all the way to about 5:30 or 9:45 to 5:30. And we just go through each section. We spend an hour per section, right? That's how much there is to do. And then, yeah, we basically go through lots. And then even better is what we've done this year is we've teamed up with Medify. Now, I absolutely love Medify, right? Because I think they're doing an amazing job. They could charge you double if they wanted to, right? It's one of the best question banks out there. It's one of the most used question banks out there. Now, I personally know the people who run it. I went to uni with some of them, and their ethos is very similar to what I do, what SAMDA does. So we just want to make applying to medicine and dentistry not something that you get, you kind of get exploited through. It's something that you guys can do for a reasonable, affordable price, which kind of helps people who are doing the work get given something that they deserve and then help you along the way. So Medify, basically, we've done a bundle with them where I'm going to talk to you guys on the next slide about the prices. But basically, Medify has over 10,000 questions, which is enough. Trust me, it's plenty. You got 8 mocks plus the 4 from the official UCAT mock. So you got 12 in total. Again, more than enough. You don't need that many. And then you got 18 mini mocks as well. So you can, again, spread that out throughout your prep. And then what they've also thrown in just for the Medic Life students is the free personal statement writer app for free, which is normally £10 on their website, but you guys get it for free. So let's talk a bit about prices. Again, going to go over that super quick. The Medic Life Live Online UCAT course is a live interactive course that we do over Zoom. There's 2-way video conference. I can see every single one of you. We normally do it through like raising your hand. You can ask questions. You can unmute yourself. It's fully interactive, okay? We've had some amazing feedback, and to be honest, I've been blown away by how much better it works than actually doing it in a classroom. It's so much nicer. But yeah, so that's £45. Now, the Medify bundle is $85 if you do it with the UCAT course, and you get a 1-month subscription to Medify's question bank. Now, normally that question bank goes for $50, right? And then the personal statement writer app is an extra £10. So doing it as a bundle through the Medic Life website, you save £20. Okay, it's a huge saving. That's like more than 20%. So that's a great saving there for you guys. The next few courses, now these are the only ones I've got scheduled at the moment because obviously my new rota with the medicine's coming. I'm quite busy. We've done about 7 or 8 sold out courses so far already. It's been amazing. Students have loved it. So the next one's next Sunday, or no, this Sunday coming. And the one after that is the next Sunday. And then I'm doing some nights. So I'm skipping a weekend. And then the final one that I've scheduled for now, I might do a few more if there is demand. I always go with what you guys like. I might do a few more in September, although I don't think that many people would be sitting the exam in late September. I know some of you are, but not that many, right? So think about which one works for you. It's a perfect place to even start your prep, or even if you've already started your prep, to just learn more techniques, right? And then this is very important. It's really dear to my heart. Is the Medic Life bursary. So we offer a bursary to students with a household income of below £20,000 a year with a 50% off for the UCAT course. So it's 50% off this price. Medify do their own bursary. You can go over to their website to check it out, but the bursary only applies to the UCAS course that I personally offer, and we do it on a case-based assessment. There's no limit to the bursaries. If you are eligible for it, you will get accepted. That's it. Right? We don't limit it to like 10 or 15. I think we've already offered like 50 so far this year. So it's been amazing. So yeah, so have a look at that on the website as well. And you guys get an extra £5 just because you're here today, and I love you guys for coming along. And thanks to SAMDA for organizing it. But make a note of this: UCAT August 2020. Kept it as simple as I could to get an extra £5 off on top of what you're already saving. Okay, so do that. That is only valid till this Sunday. After that, that's going to go. And just when you guys thought it couldn't get any better, or every single one of you who signs up from now till Sunday also gets a Medic Life pen. I actually haven't got it on me, somewhere lying around here. I'll pick one up, but you guys may have seen it on the Instagram account. You also get a Medic Life pen. I'll personally post it in the post for you guys, which you guys can use. And it's a great little, everyone who's got it already said it just motivates them more, which is perfect. Okay, so guys, honestly, thank you so much for coming along. But what I want to just touch on briefly before we finish is what's coming again this winter. So this is something that we did last year. I just wanted to have some fun with it, just trialed it, ended up becoming insanely successful and popular, the Medic Life MMI course. Okay, so once you guys have done the UCAT and you can finally take a breather and you've sent off your UCAS applications, you've done your personal statements, universities are going to get back to you. They're going to be like, oh, interviews. And that comes a bit of more stress. So this is where we do an MMI course hosted by doctors, dentists, and senior medical students. And sometimes we like to get some celebrities involved. Well, Instagram celebrities. I'm not one, but you know. So we had Karma Medic come along to the last year, one of the events. So we try and get other people, people really passionate, have similar kind of vision that I do for helping you guys, and we get them. And honestly, you can tell by the smiles, everyone has an amazing time, but the most important thing is you learn amazing amounts. So we do 2 mock MMI circuits. We do 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, so you get double the exposure that you would get from any interview. You do 2, and the best thing I've learned from over the years of helping people with interviews is you simulate the environment, what the MMI is going to be like, but then you also you basically do a station, you get feedback right there and then you can learn, take that to the next station. Do that again. Do that 10, 12 times. You will become amazing by the end of it, right? The feedback we've had, I'm not even joking. Like we've got enough students into unis this year from the MMI courses that I'm kind of hoping they all go and start their own little societies and help more people, and it's kind of expand it that way. But guys, thank you very much. And again, just to remind you, the Medic Life prize draw for the free personal statement, complete the feedback, which actually Mandeep and Zabid have linked in the description. I've also sent it to you as an email. So please complete the feedback. Let me know how you guys did. I will do that now so you don't forget whilst I start reading through some of the questions, and you guys can send me your questions. Follow the Medic Life account if you haven't on the Instagram, and then just take a picture of this event, any screen, just put it on your story. Don't forget to tag so I can see it. And I'll select a winner probably tomorrow. It's gonna be way too many things to go through today. I've got a long day at work. I've done this, so I'm a little bit tired. So I'll do it tomorrow, I promise. But yeah, honestly, it's been amazing to have you guys today. What we're gonna do now is I'm gonna start reading through the questions now. Manib and Zabid, we've run over time by about 10-15 minutes. But I'm gonna read through the questions. We'll do Q&A for about 10 minutes, and then I'll let Zabid and Manib to finish off the session. But I'm just going to start reading through them now. If you have any more questions, remember, if you go on the Medic Life account on Instagram, you guys can submit your questions. I'm just going to answer a few which are coming up and again. So just bear with me. And in the meantime, please fill in that feedback just so you let me know how I did, just so I can understand what kind of, when you guys are sitting your exam, that kind of stuff, and just how I can improve this further. Can you wipe off your whiteboard at any time during the exam? So it depends on your test center, guys. So if you're doing it at home, UCAT have now released official guidelines. They're there on their website. Go on the official UCAT website and download the guidance for whether you're sitting at home or sitting at a test center, and it'll tell you what kind of noteboard you can use. Now, over the years, some test centers give you wipeable whiteboards. Some test centers give you permanent markers, okay? Either way, biggest tip, as soon as you go into the test center, you go into the room, just be like, hi, invigilator, can I have more whiteboards, please? They may give them to you. If not, what I'll say, worst case scenario, just start using your space, or organize how you use it. Okay, so I would use it very carefully. I would be neat. Don't be super messy when you write your notes. Would you recommend missing the inference questions in verbal reasoning and coming back at the end? Now, inference questions are the ones where you have to kind of read a bit of information and then kind of make some sense of it and then answer the question. And depends. Everyone's different. So for me, I used to hate verbal reasoning. I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't know half the techniques I know now, but even back then I used to not like it, right? So if you notice that a particular question you're getting wrong every time, well, that's the kind of question you should start triaging, okay? But essentially when you're triaging stuff, you want to, the kind of main kind of questions that you want to triage is questions that don't have keywords. Negative questions can be sometimes quite long. Anything with super long passages, okay? There's lots more examples that I'll talk you guys through the full course. How can I juggle working 5 days a week with a job and revising? So that is difficult, I know, right? But what is key is organizing your prep. That's going to be the most important thing, okay? Come home, relax for a bit, and then do some prep, an hour or two in the evenings. Okay? I'm sorry, but it's just something that we have to do, okay? It is important. And then on the days off that you get, do a bit more on the days off, right? So it's going to be a bit of a struggle over the next month or so, but trust me, it's doable. And, you know, it's tricky. And I say that it's doable because I work about 50 hours a week or so. Every Sunday for the last few months, I've been doing a course and I'm doing stuff like this. So I'm not saying that it's easy. It's definitely not, but it's not impossible. I'm sure you can do it. Good luck. All right, you definitely can. Do you have to pay to apply for the UCAT? Well, you have their own official bursary, but when you're sitting the UCAT, I think it's 87 something. I can't remember from the top of my head. It's somewhere around that figure, 75 or something like this. I can't remember from the top of my head. But they have a bursary as well. If you're eligible, the UCAT's free for you when you're booking your exam. How long should we spend every day on each section? Well, everyone's different. I don't like to give out an exact number, but what I will say is spend a few hours. Okay, it's 1 or 2 hours. But also, every hour you spend doing the question, you should spend the same amount of time reviewing it as well. That's where you're really going to learn. Okay, but I don't like to say three hours. I don't like to say that because, for example, me, I used to work less than some of my friends did because that's just how I did things, right? I used to focus for shorter periods of time rather than spending 10, 12 hours in the library. I couldn't do that. So everyone's different. Some people can do more, some people would do less. If I do my UCAT in September, would I be able to start med school this year or 2021? So if you're sitting your UCAT this year, as in the next 2 months, you're going to send off your UCAS application by the 15th of October for 2021 entry. So you're applying basically to start next year, okay? Can I adapt the 3-step process for UCAT prep in the 3 weeks scheduled? Well, you can if you've been already doing some prep. If you've only started now, then I would be a bit careful and I would see how much time you have until your exam and how you can organize your prep and then kind of like divide it in that way. But if you're starting your prep now, maybe think about pushing it back by another week. See how you feel about that. You don't have to do it right now. Give it a week, see how you feel. How appropriate is it to use the whiteboard in different parts of the UCAT and will this impact time? So you should definitely use your whiteboard during decision-making, quantitative reasoning, a bit in abstract reasoning. You don't really need it for situation judgment. But what I will say, obviously, if you come along to the course, I'll take you guys exactly through what things should be on your whiteboard from the 1 minute for directions, how you use and all of that. Again, we didn't have time to cover that today. Sorry about that. Cool. How do you deal with fatigue halfway through the UCAT? For example, can't focus anymore. Well, that's exactly why you do the mocks a week, okay? To build up your endurance, okay? Get used to how it feels. But that 1 minute for direction is super important. That's when you're gonna just close your eyes, take a few deep breaths, relax, just forget about everything and just start again, okay? Which section do we do first, abstract or situational or others first? So basically the order is verbal reasoning, decision-making, quantitative reasoning, abstract reasoning, situation judgment. What does SCANS stand for? SCANS, I'm going to draw my face. Oh no. Shape, color, arrangement. Doctor's handwriting right there. Number, and then size. I'm actually really glad my hospital has gone to clinical noting, so we all do our notes on type armor. So all those doctors' handwritings are now kind of thing of the past, for my hospital anyway. Tips on keeping yourself time, keeping time without looking at the clock. That's a great question. I love that. So have checkpoints, guys. Have checkpoints. So for example, verbal reasoning, right? You've got 21 minutes. You've got 44 questions. So have a checkpoint like, I don't know, a quarter of the way through. So 5 minutes in, you should have done more than 10 questions. 10 minutes in, you should have done more than 22 questions. Okay, that kind of stuff. Have checkpoints. Tips on using the calculator efficiently. Know what you're going to do. You should know what kind of equations you need to do. Think about them. Eliminate anything that's too big or too small from the get-go. How do we get faster at using the digital calculator? Use a number pad, things like that. Again, the way you get faster using the calculator, don't use it when you don't need to. One of the biggest mistakes people do is they start off with a calculator. Like when I teach this course, sometimes my students start off like this. They're like, oh my God, I'm going to use my phone as my calculator. I'm like, what are you doing? Right? Think before you use the calculator. Now there's a balance, okay? Some students then try to do insane equations in their head. And I'm like, what are you doing? Why are you not using the calculator? So there's a balance to strike, okay? Stay on one side of the balance. How much time do you recommend spending on the UCAT revision? We've kind of covered that, 4 to 6 weeks, guys. How long should I take for questions, even when we're not doing timed questions? Again, 1 to 2 weeks, but don't overdo it. Don't make bad habits when you're doing untimed practice. Don't give yourself like 8 minutes to do a question. That's still not good. What I mean by untimed practice is going over a little bit. I don't mean spending ages on it. At what point down the line should I start timed practice? It's just like 1 to 2 weeks after you've already done, depending on how much time you have left. Remember, split your prep into those 3 things, what we talked about, right? So kind of like this. Cool. Okay. Let's do some more. Final few questions. Should we skip verbal reading comprehension questions? Do the contour? So you shouldn't skip all of the comprehension questions because there's going to be a lot. Okay, so skip the right ones. So skip the ones without the keywords. Again, come along. If you're coming along to the course, tell you exactly which ones you can skip because I can't just give you the names because it's really complicated that way. I have to show you which ones. So like things like author concluding questions where you have to read more, you have to kind of comprehend it, and these kind of things. What should you do? What score should we get the UCAS to increase our chances of getting an interview? Above 700 is a really good place to be. Amazing place to be. Okay, so try and aim for that. But again, anything above average is good because you're well above 50% of the students. But the closer you are on the top 3 deciles, you've got a good shot. Zabid and Munib, how are we doing for time? What do you guys? Can I have another 5 minutes answering the questions? What do you guys think? Let's have a.
Yeah, you can have 5 minutes. That's fine.
All right. Yeah. Sorry, guys, we're running a bit over time. I got a bit too enthusiastic with explaining everything. All right, so we've got tons of questions. That's why I just want 5 more minutes. I'm going to try and go through them really quickly. If I do the UCAT now, when can I start med school? 2021 entry. If you're applying now. Are you able to rearrange your UCAT date? Yes, you can. Once you've booked it, you can still rearrange it. Okay, information is on the UCAT website. Do you have to wear a mask whilst doing the exam? Yes, if you're in the test center, they have just released the guidelines over a few days ago. Can I enter from 2 years if I have a BSc? So if your BSc is 3 years long, if you've just finished 2nd year of your degree now and you've got just 1 more year to go, you should apply now if you want to start as soon as you finish. So you're going to be finishing next summer. You'll start in September. So yeah, you should apply now. How to finish a question in some sections, tips on how to understand questions quickly, basically the kind of things we did today. And also if you come along to the course, you guys can basically see how you decode the different types of phrases that they use. Some tips on how to speed up when it comes to verbal reasoning and scanning. It's just something that you can improve with time, but something you can do anywhere, right? If you're reading a news article, for example, read the headline, find a keyword in the headline, scan the article for that headline. It's something you can do anywhere. If you read an Instagram caption, okay, honestly, I'm not even joking. Scanning is something you can do anywhere and everywhere. So just practice, and make it second nature to you. Would you say revising for the UCAT or prepping for the UCAT is 4 weeks before your exam is enough? Yes, I definitely think so. How to control your nerves, guys. This is amazing. I love that. I love any well-being kind of questions, and it's something I should touch on actually very briefly. How to control your nerves. First thing, and I'm going to share something that the London Air Ambulance do. Okay, it's what these guys do in the picture as well. The paramedic crew in South Africa and things like that is practicing. Okay, the amount of rehearsals the doctors and the paramedics at the London Air Ambulance do, because I spent a year learning from them and that kind of stuff in my pre-hospital medical degree, is they just train because there's this thing called bandwidth. Okay, this is how much focus your brain needs to use to do a task. And if you train something a lot, you can do it quicker and easier. Okay, and therefore you become more comfortable with it. And that's something that with practice you can control your nerves. Another thing is having a positive mindset. Okay, instead of thinking, oh my god, what if I fail? Why not think, what if I smash that exam? Like, how amazing is that going to feel? I bet some of you are smiling right now because it just feels good. Positivity is a real thing, not just for this exam, throughout your entire lives. Okay, so again, follow on Instagram. I always do these little positive kind of posts, which kind of help a lot of people. Cool. We're just going to do 2 more questions. I'll just finish off. Let me just refresh that so I can get the newer questions that you guys have posted. Yeah, one thing I will say, guys, is just make sure you please look after yourself. Okay, you need to build in that time to take off, really. Okay, to kind of like just do something that you enjoy. Pick a hobby that you love. do a bit of that. If I do 2 mocks every week, won't I run out before the UCAT? Well, if you're using Medify, you've got 8 mocks there. You've got the official 4 UCAT mocks. You've got 12 in total. That's lots. And then final questions, when to start writing the personal statement is what I'm going to touch on. And the thing is, I think that light is way too bright. Let me turn it down a bit. Okay. When to start your personal statement is, I would say start it soon. Okay. You don't have to wait till the UCAT is over. Start it soon. Because I did like 15 drafts before my personal statement was in a position I could send it off. Okay. Send it to people you know. Ask them, what do you think about this? Okay. And then obviously we're going to be doing over the next few weeks. Again, make sure you follow the Medic Life Instagram. I'm probably going to do a weekly personal statement giveaway. Okay. Because I do want to help as many as I can. And I can't help everyone, sadly, because I just don't have the time to read all of them, sadly. So I'm going to have to pick and choose. I kind of just leave it up to luck. But yeah, so give it to people to read, get opinions from people, but start your drafts soon. Spend another 15 minutes a day or something just doing it along with the UCAT prep. It'll be also a nice change of topic from just doing the UCAT. All right, guys, thank you very much for coming along today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys are not too tired. Honestly, a huge shout out to SAMDA. They helped organize this event. It wouldn't have been possible without SAMDA. So guys, thank you very much. I'm gonna go off camera now. But obviously, if you have any questions, you can reach out via the email, or you can just drop me a message on Instagram. If you have any specific questions about applying for med school, hopefully I'll be seeing you guys at the full UCAT course and then at the interview course as well. Good luck, okay? Stay safe and take care of yourself, and let me know how it all goes, and I'll see you guys later. Guys, thank you very much, Manib and Zabed. You guys have been awesome for having me, and it's been an absolute pleasure. Guys, take care. Have a good evening.
Thank you so much, Bakhtar, for that brilliant presentation. It was really, really informative, and I'm sure the students watching will have learned a lot from today's event. A huge thank you to you and the Medic Life. Thank you, everyone. That's the end of our event. Do follow SAMDA and the Medic Life on our social media platforms to stay up to date with weekly tips and all of our future events, both from SAMDA and the Medic Life. The social media details are on this slide, so please do make sure to follow us. Moving on from here, lastly, just a quick reminder, don't forget the prize draw and to click on the link that is in the description of our YouTube live stream. So please do fill that in for Bakhtar and the Medic Life so that you can be in with a chance of winning the prize draw and getting your personal statement read by Bakhtar. So now here is just a bit about a conference being organized by Aspire Med. Aspire Med is founded by a group of UK medical students who developed this idea after seeing lots of expensive and inaccessible courses for aspiring medical students, particularly over these recent months during the pandemic. So they have some exciting talks lined up by prestigious speakers in the morning of the 8th of August, which is this Saturday, and a series of interactive workshops on the UCAT, BEMA, interviews, and personal statements in the afternoon. So SAMDA will be hosting the interview workshop, and this interview crash course will cover MMI interviews, and also common themes and questions that come up for these interviews and how to approach them in the best possible way. We will also be talking a bit about ethics during this workshop too. So this will be an interactive session. We'll be showing you examples through role plays, and it should be a really, really good event overall. So do sign up for this event and join us and Aspire Med on Saturday, the 8th of August. So just to conclude, thank you all for attending our virtual UCAT session. We hope that you've learned something today that you'll be able to take back with you. A huge, huge thank you to Bakhtar and the Medic Life. We would really, really appreciate if you could fill out this short feedback form for us. This will help us make our future events even better for you. And at the end of the feedback form, you will gain access to many, many resources, including our certificate, the application guide if you don't already have it, and a few other bits and bobs of information covering finance and UCAT. So lastly, on behalf of myself and Mubin, I'd like to give a huge thank you to Dr. Bakhtar Ahmed for his highly informative and insightful presentation. A huge thank you to you all for joining us today, and we hope that you enjoy the rest of your evening. See you all next time.